Alex had always been the kind of guy who avoided trouble. He liked his life simple, worked a regular job at a tech company, lived in a small apartment in the city, and spent his free time hanging out with friends or watching movies. But everything changed that night at the bar. It all started with a joke. Alex, slightly tipsy from a few too many drinks, had been laughing with his friends when one of them, Jake, dared him to make a bet. "I bet you can't get that woman over there to go out with you," Jake said, pointing to a tall, stunning woman sitting at the end of the bar. Her long black hair flowed down her back, and her eyes were a piercing shade of violet. She sat alone, sipping her drink, with a calm yet mysterious air about her. Alex chuckled and shook his head. "Are you serious? She's way out of my league." Jake grinned, taking a sip of his beer. "Come on, Alex. What's the worst that could happen? It's just a bet." Alex had never been one to back down from a challenge. With a confident smile, he stood up, walked over to the woman, and introduced himself. "Hey, I'm Alex." The woman looked up at him, and for a moment her eyes seemed to glow with an intensity that made Alex take a step back. But then she smiled, and it was as if the entire room shifted. "I'm Lyra," she said in a soft, smooth voice. "I can join." "Me, but I don't think I'm the kind of company you're looking for." Alex raised an eyebrow. He wasn't sure what she meant, but he wasn't about to back down. "I'm always looking for interesting company," he said, sitting down beside her. "So, what's your story?" Lyra's smile didn't fade. She seemed amused by his persistence, her eyes sparkling with something Alex couldn't quite place. "Let's just say I'm not what I seem," she said, taking another sip of her drink. "But I'll accept your company for now," Alex tried to keep the conversation light. But there was something strange about Lyra. She didn't act like anyone he had ever met. She spoke with an air of mystery, never revealing much about herself, and her laughter seemed to echo strangely in his mind. As the night wore on, Alex grew more fascinated with her. There was an undeniable pull between them, something magnetic that he couldn't explain. He found himself asking her questions, trying to learn more about her, but she remained an enigma. The more she spoke, the more Alex felt drawn to her. Her words seemed to carry weight, as if she had lived through centuries of experiences, each one leaving a mark on her soul. At some point, their conversation shifted to something unexpected. Lyra leaned in slightly, her eyes never leaving his. "I'll tell you what," she said, her voice soft but filled with an odd authority. "I'll accept your bet, but on one condition." Alex, feeling the thrill of the challenge, raised an eyebrow. "What's the condition?" Lyra's lips curled into a mischievous smile. "If I say yes, you have to let me bite you." Alex laughed, thinking it was just a joke. "Bite me? Like a vampire bite?" Her smile never wavered. "Exactly." For a moment, Alex hesitated, unsure if he should take her seriously. But the idea of this beautiful, mysterious woman making such an offer stirred something inside him. "All right," he said, grinning. "If that's what it takes." Lyra's eyes locked onto his, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. She leaned forward, and before Alex could say another word, he felt something cold and sharp graze his neck. A moment later, there was a sudden sharp pain as her teeth sank into his skin. Alex froze, too stunned to move. He could feel her fangs in his neck, but it didn't hurt as much as he expected. In fact, there was a strange warmth spreading through him, a feeling of connection, almost like a bond being formed. Lyra pulled back just as quickly as she had leaned in, and Alex could only stare at her in shock. She looked down at him, her eyes now glowing faintly. "Now we're connected," she said softly. "You're mine and I'm yours. Forever." Alex didn't know what to say. He touched the spot on his neck where her bite marks were, feeling the pulse of something new inside him. He thought it was all just a strange game, but he wasn't so sure anymore. Something had changed. The world felt different, and the pull toward Lyra was stronger than ever. She stood up, her smile widening. "I'll see you again, Alex. Soon." As she turned and walked away, Alex remained seated, his mind racing. What had just happened? And why did he feel like something inside him was waking up, something he couldn't control? The next morning, Alex woke up with a strange feeling. His head was pounding, his neck felt sore, and there was a weird sensation deep inside him. He rubbed his neck, wincing at the sharp pain. It was the spot where Lyra had bitten him the night before. At first, he thought it might be a dream. Maybe he'd imagined it all. He stood up and walked to the bathroom to splash some cold water on his face. Looking in the mirror, he noticed something odd. His eyes were brighter than usual, almost as if they were glowing. He blinked several times, trying to shake off the feeling, but the light in his eyes didn't fade. "Must be the hangover," he muttered, trying to convince himself. But as he went about his day, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. He had trouble focusing at work, and his senses felt sharper. He could hear people talking across the office, as if they were standing right next to him. The scent of coffee from the break room seemed stronger, almost intoxicating, when he stepped outside for lunch. The sun seemed brighter than normal, but he didn't feel the usual sting on his skin. Instead, he felt stronger, more alive, like something was waking up inside him. "Get it together," he told himself. "It's just the stress." Later that afternoon, he noticed something even stranger. His reflection in the glass of the office building seemed off. It was as if it wasn't quite in sync with his movements. He paused, trying to understand what he was seeing. His heart raced. Was it possible? No, it couldn't be. There had to be an explanation. That night, Alex couldn't stop thinking about Lyra. The more he thought about her, the more the memories of their conversation, her smile, and that strange bite filled his mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that the bet he had made was more than just a game. Something had changed, and he had no idea how to fix it. Unable to sleep, he grabbed his jacket and decided to go for a walk. The night air was cool, and as he strolled through the city streets, he realized that his senses were heightened. He could smell the food from nearby restaurants, the freshness of the night air, and even the faint scent of flowers in a distant park. Everything seemed clearer, sharper. It wasn't long before he found himself outside the same bar where he had met Lyra. He wasn't sure why he had come back, but something was pulling him inside. As he stepped through the door, the familiar sound of music and laughter filled the air. And there, sitting at the end of the bar, was Lyra. She was as beautiful as ever. Her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, her violet eyes glowing softly. In the dim light, she saw him, she smiled, and Alex's heart skipped a beat. "Alex," she greeted, her voice smooth and calm. "I see you've come to join me." I don't know what's happening to me," Alex said, his voice filled with confusion. "I feel different, like something's changing, and I don't know why." Lyra studied him for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she was considering something important. "You don't understand, do you?" she asked softly. "You made a choice last night. When I bit you, I marked you as mine, and now you're no longer just human." Alex took a step back. "What are you talking about? I'm still me, aren't I?" Lyra's smile softened, and she leaned forward. "You're still you, Alex, but now you're more than you were before. The transformation has started. You're becoming like me. You'll feel stronger, faster, and more alive. But there's also a darkness inside you, something you'll need to learn to control." Alex swallowed hard. "You mean I'm becoming a vampire?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. You're my eternal mate now. The bond between us is unbreakable." His mind raced, trying to process everything she had just said. A vampire? Eternal mate? Bull. The words sounded impossible, like something from a movie. But the way Lyra looked at him, the way his body felt, made him wonder if maybe, just maybe, it was real. "I don't want this," he said, his voice shaky. "I didn't ask for any of this." Lyra reached out and gently touched his hand. "I know. But sometimes the things we don't ask for are the things that change us forever. The choice has been made, Alex. You belong to me, and I belong to you." He pulled his hand away, feeling a mix of anger and fear rising inside him. "So what now? Do I just become like you? A monster? A vampire?" Lyra stood up, her eyes softening. "You're not a monster. This is just who you are now. You'll learn to accept it, and you'll learn to control it. You'll be powerful, Alex, and together we'll face whatever comes next." Alex didn't know what to say. His world was spinning, and everything he thought he knew about himself was being turned upside down. He had made a simple bet with his friends, and now his life was changed forever. "Come with me," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "There's so much I need to teach you, so much you need to understand." Reluctantly, Alex followed her out of the bar. He had no idea where this path would lead, but one thing was certain: his life would never be the same again. The days that followed felt like a blur to Alex. He couldn't shake the strange feeling that something inside him had shifted. The world around him seemed brighter, sharper, more alive. His senses had become heightened, and it was as if he could see every detail in the world around him. The sounds of the city were clearer, and the smell of food, even from a block away, made his stomach growl uncontrollably. At first, Alex thought it was just a phase. Maybe it was the stress, the confusion, or the fact that he had a few too many drinks the night he met Lyra. But every time he tried to ignore it, the changes became more obvious. His reflexes were faster. He could hear conversations from across the street, and his strength. It felt like he could lift a car if he really wanted to. It was the hunger, though, that terrified him. At first it was subtle, just a strange craving, an emptiness that gnawed at him. But as the days went on, it grew stronger. It wasn't just hunger for food, it was a hunger for something deeper, something more primal. Alex was sitting at his desk one afternoon, trying to focus on his work, when the craving hit him full force. His mouth went dry, and his body tensed. He could smell at the scent of someone's blood just outside the door. His head snapped up, and his eyes locked on the source. A woman, passing by with a cup of coffee in her hand, caught his gaze. The pulse in her neck was strong. It was all Alex could focus on. His heartbeat quickened, and he felt an overwhelming urge to run toward her, to taste the blood that flowed so easily beneath her skin. He clenched his fists, trying to control himself. "What is happening to me?" he muttered, his voice shaky. The woman turned to walk away, and Alex quickly stood up, shaking his head. He couldn't do this. He couldn't lose control. He rushed to the bathroom, locking himself in. His reflection in the mirror was still the same, but something was different. His eyes were darker, almost like he was staring at someone else. He leaned against the sink, breathing heavily. "Get it together," he told himself, trying to calm down. "It's just a phase, just a phase." But deep down, he knew this wasn't normal. He knew that something inside him had changed. After work, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he was being pulled toward something, toward Lyra. He had to find her, get answers. He needed to know what was happening to him, and he didn't think he could wait any longer. When he stepped into the same bar where they had met, his heart raced. Lyra was sitting at the end of the bar, just like before. This time, though, she wasn't alone. A man was sitting beside her, leaning in close, laughing at something she had said. The sight made Alex's chest tighten. He walked over to her, trying to keep his cool. "Lyra," he said, his voice low. She looked up at him, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light of the bar. "Alex," she greeted with a smile that seemed both warm and distant. "You came?" "Of course I did," Alex replied, though his voice was rough. He could feel the hunger gnawing at him again, and it only grew stronger as he stood closer to her. "I need to know what's going on. Why am I like this?" Lyra motioned for him to sit beside her. "You're becoming what you were always meant to be," she said calmly, her voice smooth as silk. "Your body is adjusting to the change. The transformation will take time. It's not easy, but it's necessary. You're mine now, Alex, and in return, I'm yours." Alex shook his head, trying to ignore the strange pull he felt toward her. "But this hunger, it's driving me crazy. I can't control it." Lyra studied him for a moment, her gaze intense. "It's the bloodlust," she explained. "It's a part of becoming what we are. At first, it's overwhelming. The craving will control you, but over time, you'll learn to manage it. You'll learn to feed when necessary, and you'll learn when to walk away." "But I'm not ready for this," Alex said, his voice breaking. "I don't want to be a vampire. I don't want to be a monster." "You're not a monster, Alex," Lyra said softly, her voice full of reassurance. "What you are is powerful. You'll never have to be weak again. The world is different for us, We don't age. We don't get sick. We are stronger, faster, and more resilient than any human could ever be. You don't have to fear what's coming next. You just have to embrace it." Alex stared at her, his mind swirling with confusion. He had never imagined his life would take a turn like this. All he wanted was to go back to the way things were before the bet, before the bite. But deep down, he knew he couldn't go back. His life was forever changed. "I can't do this alone," Alex admitted, his voice soft. "I need you, Lyra," she smiled, her eyes glowing even brighter. "And I need you, Alex. We're in this together. You'll learn to control the hunger. I'll teach you. And when the time comes, you'll be ready." A weight lifted off his shoulders. But a new fear took its place. Alex knew that Lyra wasn't just teaching him to survive. She was teaching him to become something else, something he wasn't sure he wanted to be. The days that followed were filled with strange new lessons. Alex was learning more about his new life with each passing hour. His senses continued to sharpen. He could hear things in the distance, smell things from far away, and see details that he never noticed before. But with these new abilities came a feeling of constant danger. He never knew when the hunger would strike again. The craving for blood was still there, lurking in the back of his mind. And sometimes, it was all he could think about. Lyra continued to teach him how to control it. She helped him practice feeding in a way that wouldn't hurt anyone. All about control, she told him, her eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. "The human world doesn't understand us, Alex. They fear what they don't know, and sometimes they will come after us. But we must stay hidden. We must stay in control." Despite her lessons, Alex felt more and more like a stranger in his own life. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt truly human. His old friends didn't seem to understand what he was going through. Whenever he tried to explain, they only looked at him with confusion or pity. They didn't know what it felt like to become something else entirely. Then, one evening, everything changed. Alex and Lyra were walking through the streets when he noticed a figure following them from a distance. It was subtle at first, just a shadow in the corner of his vision. But as they turned down a side street, the figure got closer, moving with purpose. Alex's senses went on high alert, could feel the danger before he saw it. Lyra noticed it too. "We're not alone," she said, her voice low and steady. "Stay close." Alex did as she said, his heart racing. The figure was no longer just a shadow, it was a man, tall and dark, with an air of hostility. He wore a long coat, and his eyes were locked on them, focused and calculating. "Who is that?" Alex asked, his voice shaking slightly. "What does he want?" Lyra didn't answer at first. Instead, she moved closer to Alex, her presence calming. "That," she said, her tone colder than Alex had ever heard it, "is someone you don't want to meet. He's one of them." "One of who?" Alex demanded, his curiosity rising. "What's going on?" "On Lyra?" Before she could respond, the man stepped forward, his footsteps echoing in the quiet night. "I should have known you'd be here, Lyra," the man said, his voice dripping with malice. "And now we finally get to meet the human you've been hiding." Alex took a step back, confused and alarmed. He asked, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was cold, dangerous. "Oh, I don't want you," he said, his eyes flicking to Lyra. "I want her. But if it takes breaking you to get to her, so be it." Lyra stepped in front of Alex, her eyes flashing with anger. "You don't get to threaten him," she said, her voice full of fury. "Not while I'm standing here." The man laughed, a low, cruel sound. "You really think you can stop me? You've been hiding, Lyra. Hiding for too long. The others are done with you. It's time for you to pay for your disobedience." Alex didn't understand everything that was happening, but one thing was clear. The man meant them harm. He could feel the tension building in the air, like the calm before a storm. Lyra was tense, her muscles coiled, ready to fight. Without warning, the man lunged at them, moving faster than Alex could track. Lyra, however, was quicker. She dodged to the side, and Alex barely had time to react as she grabbed his arm and pulled him out of the way. "Stay back," Lyra shouted as she faced the man. Her voice was filled with power and authority, something Alex had never heard before. She wasn't just a vampire. She was something more, something that commanded respect. The man sneered. "You've forgotten your place, Lyra. You're nothing now. Just a rogue running from your own kind." Alex was still trying to make sense of it all. Who was this man? What did he mean by rogue? Why was Lyra being hunted? Before he could ask, the man attacked again, this time aiming for Lyra. She moved so fast, it was almost impossible to follow. In a blur of motion, she blocked his strike and countered with one of her own. Alex couldn't believe what he was seeing. The fight was like something out of a movie, vampires in battle, moving faster than the human eye could track. "Lyra, we need to go," Alex shouted, his heart racing. Lyra didn't respond right away. She was focused on the man, her eyes narrowing. "With determination, is part of a faction that wants to control us. They want power, and they think I'm an easy target," she explained between strikes. "But they'll learn. They always learn." Alex could feel the energy in the air, the tension building with each movement. He knew Lyra was strong. He had seen that with his own eyes, but he also knew that the man wasn't going to stop. Alex wasn't sure how much longer they could keep this fight going without help. Then, as if on cue, a sharp cry broke through the night, followed by the sound of footsteps. Lyra glanced over her shoulder and nodded toward Alex. "Run," she said, her voice steady. "I'll hold him off. Go." Alex hesitated for a moment, but then he saw the look in her eyes. She was serious, and she was right. He couldn't help her in a fight like this. Not yet. He turned and ran, his heart pounding in his chest. As he fled, he couldn't help but glance back one last time. Lyra was standing her ground, fighting with everything she had, and the man was backing off at least for now. But Alex knew this wasn't over. There was more to this world than he had ever imagined, and he was about to be dragged even deeper into it. Alex's heart raced as he ran through the dark streets, his legs moving faster than they ever had before. The adrenaline surged through his body, and his mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. He didn't know where he was going or what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. Lyra was fighting for both of them. He couldn't leave her behind. As he turned a corner, he slowed down and pressed his hand against the cool brick wall to catch his breath. His body felt alive, stronger than ever before, but it didn't feel like his. The hunger, the power, it was all so overwhelming. Could feel the pull inside him, the strange craving for blood gnawing at his thoughts. But now wasn't the time for that. Now, he had to think about Lyra. He had to get back to her. Alex looked around, trying to get his bearings. The streets were quiet, empty. Danger felt like it was still lurking, hiding in the shadows. He could hear his heartbeat thudding in his ears, the sound louder than anything else. It was like his senses were heightened, making every sound, and smell more intense than it should have been. He pulled out his phone and dialed Lyra's number. It rang several times, and just as he was about to hang up, she answered. "Alex," she said, her voice steady but tired. "You should have kept running. This isn't over." "I can't leave you," Alex replied, his voice urgent. "You're fighting them alone. I won't let them take you." "You're not ready for this," Lyra said softly, but there was something in her tone that made Alex's chest tighten. "I'm trying to protect you, but the world we live in isn't kind to humans. It's not kind to us either." "What do you mean?" Alex asked, his confusion growing. "Who are they? Why are they after you?" Lyra paused, and for a moment, Alex thought she wasn't going to answer. But then she spoke, her voice full of quiet determination. "There's a faction of vampires who believe that power should be taken by force. They want to control the rest of us, those who choose to live outside their laws. They don't see me as one of them anymore. I've always chosen to stay hidden, but now they want me to pay for my rebellion." "Rebellion?" Alex asked, still not fully understanding. "What rebellion? I've never followed their rules. I've always kept to myself, stayed away from the politics and games they play. And when I met you, when I chose to be with you, I sealed my fate. They believe you're a threat to their plans. That's why they'll never stop until they get what they want." Alex felt his stomach twist. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had never asked for any of this. All he wanted was to live a normal life. Now he was stuck in the middle of a vampire war, and it was clear that the stakes were much higher than he'd ever imagined. "I won't leave you, Lyra," he said, his voice filled with resolve. "I don't care who they are. I'm not going anywhere." There was silence on the other end of the line, and then Lyra's voice softened. "You don't understand, Alex. I never wanted this for you. I never wanted you to become like me. But you've made your choice. And now we have to face the consequences together." Alex shook his head, his breath quickening. "I don't care about the consequences. I just want to be with you. I don't care if you're a vampire. I don't care what the others want." There was a long pause when Lyra spoke again. The voice was barely a whisper. "I'll always protect you, Alex. But you need to understand what it means to live in this world. The hunger, the power, the blooded will change you. You will become something else. And that's not something you can ever undo." Alex closed his eyes, trying to process what she had just said. He already felt it. He could feel the power inside him, the way his body responded to the world around him. But he didn't want to lose himself. He didn't want to become someone he couldn't recognize. "I'm ready, Lyra," Alex said quietly. "I'm ready to face whatever comes next." "With you," Lyra sighed. And when she spoke again, her voice was soft, but filled with warmth.
"Oh,
"Have a strong heart, Alex. But you don't know what it means to live forever. The things you'll see, the people you'll lose, it will break you. It will break anyone who tries to survive in our world." "I don't care about forever," Alex replied, his voice firm. "I care about being with you. I care about us." There was a brief moment of silence, and then Lyra spoke. "Then come back to me. But be careful. They won't stop. And neither will I." Alex hung up the phone, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but one thing was clear. He couldn't walk away now. He had made his choice. He was in this with Lyra, no matter the price. He turned and began to walk back toward the alley where they had fought. Earlier, his mind was focused, his body still buzzing with the strange energy he had come to recognize as his new reality. But this time, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't going to hide anymore. When he reached the alley, he saw Lyra standing there, waiting for him. Her eyes were full of fire and her expression was determined. She had been through so much, and yet she was still standing strong. "We're not alone, Alex," Lyra said, her voice low but steady. "They'll come for us again, but we'll be ready." Alex stepped forward, his resolve strengthening with each step. He had chosen this life, and he would stand by her side no matter the cost. Together, they would face whatever came their way. The nights had become a blur of endless training, and Alex could feel the weight of his new life settling on him. Each day, the changes grew more intense. His body was stronger, faster, and the hunger was always there, gnawing at him, waiting for its next meal. But despite the power he now had, something inside him was still human, still wanting the life he used to know. But that life was gone. There was no turning back. Alex sat on the edge of a rooftop, looking out over the city. The city that felt so small to him now. He could see every detail, every moving figure below. The world was no longer just a place to live. It was a place to conquer, to survive. Lyra joined him, her footsteps silent as always. She sat beside him, and for a moment, neither of them said anything. The wind blew gently through the night air, the quiet hum of the city surrounding them. "You look lost in thought," Lyra said, her voice soft, yet strong. "What's on your mind, Alex?" Alex turned to look at her, the woman who had changed everything. She had made him what he was, and yet she had also given him a choice to walk beside her, to face the dangers of their world together. But there was still doubt inside him. Was he ready for this? Was he ready to embrace the darkness that came with immortality? "I was thinking about everything," Alex said quietly. "The hunger, the power, the world we live in now. It's so different from the way I used to see it." Lyra nodded, her eyes never leaving his. "I know. I've been where you are. I've walked through the darkness and felt the weight of immortality. But you're not alone, Alex. We face it together, the good and the bad. You're not just my mate. You're my equal. You're strong, even if you don't believe it yet. Alex looked away, his mind filled with the memories of what had happened since that first night. The fight with the vampire faction, the hunger, the fear that sometimes still crept into his heart. But when he looked at Lyra, all of that seemed to fade away. She was there, always steady, always strong. "I'm not sure I'll ever be ready for this," he admitted, his voice full of uncertainty. "The hunger, the blood. It's not just something you can turn off. It's like it takes over." Lyra smiled, her eyes softening with understanding. "It does take over, but it doesn't define you, Alex. You still have a choice. We all do. You've already chosen to stand by me, to protect what's important. And that's what matters. We're still learning, but together, we can control it." Alex took a deep breath and looked back at the city. The world that had once been so simple now seemed full of endless possibilities and endless dangers. He could feel the power inside him, the power he could no longer deny. But with that power came responsibility, something he wasn't sure he was ready for. "I don't want to lose myself," he said quietly. "I don't want to become someone I don't recognize." Lyra reached out, placing her hand on his. I won't let you. You're stronger than you think, Alex. You always have been. But now, you have a chance to be more than just human. You have a chance to shape your future." Alex nodded slowly, feeling the truth in her words. He had already changed. There was no going back. But perhaps that wasn't such a bad thing. Perhaps with Lyra by his side, he could learn to control the hunger, to embrace the power, and to find a place in this new world. Lyra stood up and extended her hand to him. "Come with me," she said. "There's something you need to see." Alex hesitated, but then he took her hand. She pulled him to his feet, and together, they stepped off the rooftop and into the night. As they walked through the city streets, Lyra led him to an old abandoned building on the outskirts of town. The building was dark, its windows boarded up. But as they stepped inside, Alex felt the change in the air. There was something about this place that made him feel connected. Like this was a place where he could finally understand what it meant to be a vampire. "This is where I first learned to control the hunger," Lyra said, as they entered the dark room. "This is where I became who I am." Alex looked around, seeing the remnants of old memories, old teachings. There were marks on the walls, symbols that Lyra had used to remind herself of the lessons she had learned over the centuries. It was a place of learning, a place of power. "Teach me," Alex said, his voice steady now. "Teach me everything," Lyra smiled, a proud smile that made Alex's heart race. "I've been waiting for you to say that. Together, we'll be unstoppable. Together, we'll face whatever comes next." And in that moment, Alex knew that. He had made the right choice. No matter what the future held, no matter how hard the journey ahead would be, he and Lyra would face it together. They were eternal mates, bound by blood and love, and nothing would tear them apart.